We love to live it. Because here, our guru, genuinely, was telling us that, hey guys, just follow the instructions of your mind. Just follow the dictates of your mind. And you will be fine. However, when I read Bhagavad-gita, some 40 years ago, I saw something very, very counterproductive to Jim Cliff's philosophy. Rather, in the Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna was advocating the principle of controlling the mind. That if we control the mind, that is a stepping stone to progress. And I can relate with it even in the modern day situation, where we find that our world leaders, some of our world leaders ruin their careers because of not being able to resist the dictates of the mind and the sense of God. I can give you graphic examples. For instance, the 10th director of the International Monetary Fund, Strauss-Kahn, he's a French guy. He had a big, he went to one of the best schools in France. He studied economics. He had a good profession before he got that position as the director, the 10th director for International Monetary Fund. You know how he lost his job? Inability to control the mind. He came to the US, he came to New York, he was lodging in a hotel, and then he got attracted to a hotel maid. A maid. He had a beautiful wife in France. And the maid's aura zapped this guy, and he was charged with attempted rape. He was put in jail in New York. He was tried, found guilty, and he got jail term. That's how he lost his job. Demand. Sometimes some people say that they can't do anything about it. No bad. As a very scholar and as a management scientist, and from my own lived experience, I know there is something we can do. In fact, there are two classes of people on the planet. One class, technically speaking, in Sanskrit we call them Goswamis. Goswami. Another class is Godas. The Godas means those who are under the auspices of the mind. In other words, those who are controlled by the mind. Those who follow the dictates of the mind. Those who subscribe, who succumb to the dictates of the mind. They are never happy. Why? Because we cannot satisfy the dictates of the mind. I don't know. It's like someone jumping into an ocean and trying to swim across the ocean. You need a rescuer. Otherwise, you will drown. No matter your expertise in swimming. The Godasas are enslaved by the mind and the sensory modalities. They are not peaceful on this planet. They may be billionaires, but the next day you hear they are in jail. This is how the mind conditions the embodied soul. It's unfortunate that, you know what? Just few people on this planet understand this science, know about this science, live this science, implement the strategies of how to control the mind and the system modalities and live peaceful life. Few people on the planet. And therefore, the acharyas of Vedic wisdom is so magnanimous. Srila Prabhupada is so magnanimous that he came all the way from India to America at an elderly age. In America, when you're 65, you're done. You're dead. Prabhupada left the comfort, the spiritual comfort zone of Vrindavan and sailed to America to distribute this knowledge that the control of the mind is subsumed in the Vedic wisdom. And so, all I can say is, I'm grateful to Prabhupada because he changed my life. He transformed my life to what I am today. Otherwise, it could be a different thing. I have friends who have 3 PhDs. They're not happy with their lives. 3 PhDs. Well, yeah. So it's not how much money you have, how much skills you have, that really matters. The mind is impetuous. The mind has no pity for anybody. And there is no one that is a favorite. No. So you are young people, young ladies and gentlemen. You are the future of this country. Some of you may become the people in position of power in the future. And the Bhagavad-gita explains that whatever a great man does, the common man follows. And whatever standard he or she sets, the whole world pursues. And therefore, you need to understand this philosophy properly and try to apply it, because understanding philosophy and implement speaking it, repeating it is wanting and applying it in your life for transformation, to have that lived experience of the transformation. That is another thing. If someone simply hears, understands, and repeats this philosophy, good, you get purified anyway. But parrots also can repeat philosophy. If you teach a parrot philosophy, they can repeat it perhaps better than humans. Therefore, a human being who simply speaks philosophy or repeats philosophy without implementation for personal transformation, he or she is a parrotologist. He's acting like a parrot. We don't want our students to act like parrots. And therefore we want people to understand that the essence is to be able to apply these teachings in our lives so that we can reap the results of being able to control our mind and our senses. And the other set of people, the Goswamis, they call Goswamis. they have full control over the mind. Instead of being controlled by the mind, they control the mind and the senses. I mean, their attitude is like watching a kid that maybe a kid that is so child with so much of energy, say a 2 years old kid or 1.5 years old kid. The parents have to watch, especially the mom has to watch the child all the time. Otherwise, a little inattention could bring about a devastation. So the ghost family, they treat the mind in that way. They watch the mind. So the mind wanders here, they drag him back. The mind tells them something. They say, hey, get behind me, mind. It's not that the mind doesn't bother them, but they listen. In America, you are not allowed to abuse anybody. Abuse is prohibited in America. It's a law. It's against the law. Whether it is financial abuse, emotional abuse, sex abuse, whatever. Any type of abuse. If you report it, you're going for it. However, the only person that you can abuse, you're authorized to abuse, is the mind. How? Ignore the mind. Ignore the mind when it comes to the mind dictates something. So the ghost family, they are very much expert in abusing the mind. They ignore the mind completely. Because the mind always makes some proposition. The mind is characterized as sankalpa and vikalpa. Accepting one thing now, sankalpa, vikalpa. Rejecting that same thing the very next moment. When you find sometimes people commit crimes, they are indicted. They're found guilty, they're sentenced. Now, before the sentencing, the judge makes a proposition to the accused. Hey, you've been found guilty. What have you got to say? What is the final statement? My Lordship, I was pushed by the devil. Please forgive me. It's called in law, autoquotes. What has he got to say? Maybe the judge will be sympathetic and say, okay, you're a first offender, all right? Don't do this next time. That is the beauty of the legal system. However, the universal legal system don't follow that pattern. Prabhupada describes the laws of nature as very stringent. There is no question of forced offender. Whether a forced offender or an old criminal, an adult criminal, they treat you the same way. You merit what you did. And so, we have to understand how the mind has no pity for anybody. And as the leaders of tomorrow, you have to prepare yourself in being able to navigate your way through the challenges that the mind may pose to you in your workplace or as a student. The propositions from the mind. You should be able to discern between the dictates of the mind and the inspiration that comes from the super soul. This is sometimes people get confused. They think any inner call or any inner urge is to be fulfilled. This is a divine call. This is a divine impulse. This is a divine drive. No. So, the mind, see this body, let's understand, if we're going to the metaphysics of this body, we have this physical body, we also have the subtle body. The physical body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and force, ego. And so, the mind is just one of the elements of the subtle body. When we go to bed, we find ourselves in activities, we call it dream. One of the elements in that body, that subtle body is the mind. Now, that subtle body is encapsulating the life force, the spirit. And sometimes we go through a university program to be a PhD, and we don't know who we are. We don't know our metaphysics. We don't know our present identity. And even the high-profile personalities on the planet, the comedian can drive them crazy. Comedian says something, and it's something that, that is provoking. They just go and laughing, and they may imbibe that statement and live it. Sometimes people don't understand that even unethical things, people say it repeatedly, and it becomes a norm. It becomes a grand norm. This is our condition. So the mind has conditioned us in such a way that sometimes we tend to think that this body is the be-all and end-all. And so we've been following instructions of the mind and the senses for a very long time. Many lifetimes. So this is the time to wake up. Jiva Jago. We have to wake up from our sleeping state. See, I just came from Europe. I was on a tour in Europe for 1 month. I was in France for some programs. Then I went to Switzerland. I went to Geneva and Zurich for some events. Then I went to Germany. And I just flew back to America, to New York, from Germany to 2 nights ago. And one of the things that I found even in Europe, I've been going to Europe practically every year. One of the things that I found even in Europe is that it's the same thing. This same thing that is going on everywhere you go in the world. In America, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in Australia, anywhere you go, it's the same thing. Ahara, Nidra, Vaya, Petunia. Eating, sleeping, mating, fighting. Even in the family. And the mind tells us, we are alright. We are fine. We are very much okay. So, earlier I was in the Caribbean. In July I was in the Caribbean for 1 month. So when I was in one of these Caribbean islands, this country, Suriname, I was invited to come to speak at the museum. They were celebrating 166 commemoration of abolition of slavery in the country. And they asked me to speak on a topic, emanation from mental slavery. I said, what? Do they know that I have a spiritual background before they asked me to speak on this? So it's the same thing, no matter the high faculty or high language the professors use in capturing that tea. It is the same thing. How to be free from this enslavement to the mind. People talk about, we fought so much against physical slavery. Nobody is fighting against mental slavery. We have been enslaved by the mind for so long. I'll give you an example. But it's not only men who are affected. Women are also affected. I'll give you an example. Here is a school, an educator, a leader in the educational sector, in the education industry, a woman. Her husband was the principal of that school. She was teaching in that school. There was one boy in our class, very, very attractive. And the boy was 17 years old. In America, if you fall 17 years old and the government goes to know, you're going to jail. It's called rape. It's another form of rape. You may say, well, it was consensual. No, it's underage. Now, they were texting. This lady, the teacher, and this boy, they were texting. She was trying to woo this boy into sex. Mental slavery. Trying to woo this boy into sex. At some point in time, she realized, hey, stop. If I get caught, I'll be going to jail. So at that point, one would have expected that, oh, she realizes. Good for her. She has saved herself from trouble. But no, after a few moments later, I mentioned to you the mind is characterized by sankalpa and vikalpa. Accepting one thing now and rejecting that same thing the next moment. The next moment, this lady again went back into this deal. Texting. They went out for sex. Now the boy came back and was proud of her sex deal with her teacher to her mates, the girls in her class. And one of the girls who was having affection for this boy, she was mad. So she reported the matter to the school authorities. And that is how the teacher was arrested. And she went to jail. She lost her husband, she lost her job. Talking about the mind and the senses. The danger of not being able to control the mind and the senses. Now, if we analyze things, there are so many implications of not being able to control or tame the mind and the senses. And the question is there a solution? Hey, Dr. Das, you've been talking, Bhakti Vasudeva Swami, you've been talking. Is there a solution to this? Yes, that is the beauty. That's the solution. See, I have been practicing this very intervention, this solution I'm going to present to you, for 40 years. I've been practicing this intervention, the solution, for 40 years. And I'm pretty happy. And I'm not enslaved by the mind and the senses. I'm one of those guys that are called Goswami. And anybody could be, anyone could be. You don't need to give up your studies. You don't need to give up your status. You just need to incorporate this intervention in your life, and you're good to go. You can walk on water without sinking in. In other words, you can live in the world without being part of the world. You can live in the world without being enslaved by the mind and the senses. We need people like that in America, because our leaders have also been falling victim to the mind and the senses. If you look around, look, Senator Menendez was just found guilty of fraud. Earlier, Santos, Representative Santos, was found guilty of fraud. But yeah, it's not just only the 10th Director of International Monetary Fund, who is a French guy. Here in America also, we've seen the consequences of this. We have had unseen consequences of lack of self-control or lack of mind controlling, lack of the ability to control the mind, even in our school campuses. We have had and seen sex scandals on school campuses that led to so much of this devastation. So here is a time-tested strategy. Here is a time-tested intervention. I call it sonic therapeutic intervention. And in fact, I had a presentation at Oxford on 25th of September. We had a conference on management and economics at Oxford University, and had a chance. I made 3 proposals prior to the conference, and then my proposals were accepted. So I was able to present 3 research papers, and they were all dealing with this very intervention as a solution to the different problems that we are presenting. One of the problems was fraud, and the other problem was sex scandals. And I looked all of that into a very simple strategy as a solution to it. And that is the sonic therapeutic intervention. This is what is being practiced in the Hare Krishna temples globally. And we have produced so many Goswamis, people who have controlled the mind and the senses, not being enslaved by the mind and the senses. And so, and it is of zero cost. Not cost effective, zero cost. You don't pay anything for it. You don't pay anything for it. Cost effective means there is some price you pay. The money, you pay some money. But this is zero cost. And some of you know about it. We chant this 32 syllable mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This very mantra is been proven to be a veritable means of raising the individual chanter's consciousness. Experiments have been conducted to show how this very mantra helps in facilitating high academic performance by promoting high mental health. In other words, negating mental health challenges such as stress, anxiety, depression. Not only that, this very 32 syllable mantra has also been proven by these researchers and not Krishna devotees, independent researchers. So you won't say, they are biased, they are devotees of Lord Krishna. No. And they are quantitative studies. Quantitative studies, 3 methodologies in research. You have the quantitative study, quantitative method, qualitative, and a mixed method. These researches are conducted using quantitative methodology. In other words, they are generalizable. So if something is scientifically proven, is beyond religious dogma, is beyond religiosity, is beyond philosophy. Philosophers, they talk. Religious people, they talk. We don't talk only, we also present our facts and figures through data, substantiated data. That's how it works. So we want you to understand that what we are presenting, what we are giving in these books presented by Swami Prabhupada, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada, they are authentic, they are time-tested, they are scientific. You know, Prabhupada used to say, Krishna consciousness is science. And people, it's difficult for people to grasp that. In fact, when Prabhupada was in Chicago, when he was on planet, he went around the whole globe several times. So I remember one time when he was in America, he was in Chicago, and a cops, police officer had approached Prabhupada. That is, by Prabhupada, I mean the person who transplanted this very 32-syllable mantra from India to the American soil. So a police officer asked Prabhupada in Chicago, Swami Ji, what can your movement do to minimize crime? There's so much of crime in Chicago. What can your movement do? Tell us something. And Prabhupada, you know the simple answer he gave? He said, if people chant the Hare Krishna mantra, crime will go down. See, as a management scientist, it's challenging for me to present that statement to any other management scientist. So I conducted a research. I conducted a hermeneutic phenomenological research. And in 2021, I concluded my research, presented it at the World Academy of Science, Engineering and Technology on sonic therapeutic intervention for preventing financial fraud. This research gained traction. It received the Best Presentation Award and was published in the International Journal of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering. You could Google on the web. You can check that out. So, that built my confidence in what Prabhupada said. I verified it through scientific experiment. That this mantra does help to prevent crime such as fraud. Now keep in mind that according to the general theory of crime proposed by two criminologists, Gottfriedson and Hitching in 1990, the general theory of crime stipulates that all crimes and antisocial behavior are as a result of low self-control. And you know what? Before the advent of the general theory of crime, Rupa Goswami, a very ardent Vedic scholar, Vaishnava Vedic scholar, he had proposed that anyone who can control themselves can become a global leader. In his own words in Sanskrit, he mentioned Vasha Vega, Manasa Kroda Vega, Jiva Vega, Udhara Pasta Vega, Eta Vega, Yo Visaheta Dira, Sarva Atman Prithivim Sasishat. There are people who have PhD in Sanskrit in this country. You go to Harvard University, Columbia University, there are professors who have PhD in Sanskrit. So Rupa Goswami proposed that in Sanskrit language that people should understand that what they say need to be controlled. What you say, you see sometimes people use their tongue in the wrong way, and then later become The tongue has also caused people to bring people together through sweet words. The tongue has also separated marriages. Oh yeah. So Rupa Goswami says, we should control the tongue. The urge to speak hogwash is always there. It's just with one hogwash, we can cause a war, an international war, one nation against the other. President of one country can say something really silly against another country, and then the other president also comes to counteract, and then there's a friction. They don't go to the battlefield. They send the soldiers to go and fight and kill themselves. Uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy of our time. Uncontrolled mind and the social modalities. This is the cause of all our problems. In fact, in the Bhagavad-gita, specifically in the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Adanta Gopi Vishatam Tamisha. All our problems are due to uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled senses. The same thing is echoed by these criminologists, Gottfriedson and Hitchie, in their general theory of crime. What else can I say? Are there comments or questions? Yes.
So the mantra Hare Krishna, it's used as a method to control the mind, but how does it control the mind?
Keep in mind, thank you for the nice question. Keep in mind that the purpose of this mantra is not to control the mind. The control of the mind is just a concomitant factor. It comes along. I mean, it's just like if you buy a limousine, so you have a small brother, you buy a limousine for him. And your small brother has a child who likes to play with a car tire. He doesn't need to go and buy a car tire for the boy because the limousine comes with a spare tire. He can just give the spare tire for him to play with. That spare tire is the concomitant factor of the limousine. So, the control of the mind, control of the senses, is the concomitant factor of the solid therapeutic intervention or the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. And it comes just automatically. You don't go and work separately hard for it. The purpose of the chanting is Krishna Prema Pumatumam, to attain pure love for Krishna. We are looking for love. In most cases, we place our love in the inappropriate place, inappropriate circumstance. And we get disappointed. People who commit suicide because of misplaced love. So, how it happens is that it just happens automatically, and you can feel the difference in your life if you start this process of chanting. In just a month, you see a big difference in the activities of the mind. The counsel, the acceptance and rejection of the mundane constructs of the world, you will feel it. It's called hermeneutic, lived experience. You will feel it, you will see it, you will experience it yourself. I have been doing it for 40 years.
So, in other words, thank you. So, in other words, the distinction is made that the Hare Krishna mantra is used, in other words, as a focus for the mind rather than something to change it. Your focus goes to the Hare Krishna mantra instead of something else that would be more harmful.
Yeah. Because see, what is important in our life is that The mind will always think of something.
Mm-hmm.
The mind. You can't say, I will not think of anything.
Right.
You can't control the mind by that means. No. But if the mind is used, is channeled properly, if the thought, if our thinking, feeling, and willing is channeled properly for or in devotional activities, that will help in transforming the state of affairs of the mind. If we channel the mind towards mundane subjectivities, that will create a lot of impediment even in our good intentions. For instance, as a student, you may be reading, and before you realize, the mind has jumped off, away, sometimes for 5 minutes, before you realize, oh my God, what am I doing? Now, if you are engaged in this process, one of the benefits that come, according to management scientists from the research, is that it facilitates high attention span. High attention span is what enables the student to be able to concentrate for a long time, or even for the professional to concentrate on the job for a long time. There are so many researches that have been conducted on this very mantra for social transformation. Yes, so our mind bothers us like anything. Sometimes we don't even say it, but we know that we've been bothered by the mind. So yeah, if we try chanting this mantra every day, basically we will see the transformation in our lives. I have seen it. Otherwise, see, I have a PhD. Why would I be wasting my time doing this type of stuff?
Yeah, so I like that answer because I'm Buddhist. I come from the Korean Zen Buddhist tradition. And I think the most important thing that I find and this goes across, Hinduism and other, your practice and other practices, is that there needs to be a focus, and sometimes that focus can even be the mind itself, or it can be, that light or a sound, but you focus on something and then you realize, just like you said, automatically, that what you were focusing on before, money, sex, drugs, whatever, it is irrelevant. It just removes itself like a fan spinning and you turn off the plug, and it just goes off automatically.
So displacement.
Yeah, it removes the power from it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions? Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Maharaj, please accept my apologies for this. Very enlightening. So, in the current scenario with students, how do the students ensure that they don't become affected by the association? Because nowadays, most people are affected by all the cases that you mentioned. They're very common in the university nowadays. So, how does one resist, and how does one manage his time?
Thank you. Now, a university campus is a complex environment. If people understand, because as a management scientist, basically, I like to talk about science. Even when I talk about spirituality, I like to incorporate scientific models in my discussions. Now, according to this German psychologist, Professor Levin generated the field theory in 1938. And the field theory basically stipulates that the environment impacts on our behavior. The environment. So, a university can what is environment? An environment constitutes of people. It is part of the environment. So if you are in a place, just the items in that very environment impact on your consciousness. And so we can run away from that reality, but we can protect ourselves from bad infections. One of the ways to do that is to be conscious about how and what we do at any given time of our day. We have 24 hours of the day. If we don't manage it properly, we could, at the end of the day, go to sleep feeling very morose, because then on our to-do list for the day, we find this was not done, this was not done, this was not done. We feel bad. And therefore, as students, one of the things that is important is to be able to see how we're managing our time effectively. I would suggest one thing. See, one of the things that is most destructive in the present day scenario, in the 21st century, is the smartphones. I use smartphones for my research. I don't go to the library. At the same time, smartphones and the internet have caused people to be sacked from their jobs, have caused students to fail out from college. I know people who fail out from college because of internet and the smartphones. And so, if we do build, surprisingly, some scholars have already written some books now about how to overcome this problem. This problem. Well, we are very happy that we have all these iPhones and whatever, Androids and all this stuff. But now, for some people who do not have control over their mind and their senses, it has become a big problem. And therefore, it is important that we manage our time effectively, and we could have a timetable for the day, and so that in America it's very common. Someone can keep you on the phone for 2 hours. And as a student, you talk on the phone for 2 hours. You're just looking for trouble. Except it is your professor who is lecturing you for 2 hours on the phone. Will that talk facilitate your high grades? Anything you want to do or anything you're doing, you ask yourself, will this help me in facilitating high grades? Because when at the end of your years in the college, when you go home, your guidance, your parents are going to ask you, yes, where's your certificate? What grade? They're not going to ask you how much time you wasted. They're not going to ask you how many boyfriends you had, how many girlfriends you had. No! They won't ask you that. They won't care less. And so, we should not lose focus. It's so easy to be distracted on campus, because there are so many free infrastructures, so many facilities that will enable that distraction from the focus on our studies. So one thing you can do is to be able to, draft a timetable if you've not done that already, and focus on your daily schedule. Yes, someone may call you on the phone, but you have a schedule. You can tell that person, "Oh, can I call you back? I'm in a meeting." Because if it is an unscheduled call, and it may go on, maybe you're reading and you put your phone on. And I've seen people do this. People do this even in the synagogues, in the temples, whatever. The phone has become like a baby. And it has caused so much of distraction. There's nothing wrong in having a phone. I use my smartphone. I'm very productive with my smartphones. And so, if we tame the mind and the senses, we'll be able to say no to the influence of all of these urges on our journey to success. So again, it boils down to dealing with the mind and the sense of modality. But essentially, it's subsumed in effective time management. As a college student, you need effective time management to be able to boost your studies. All right. Thank you. Any other comments? If there's no other comments, we'd like to pray for the adjournment of this meeting.
Maharaj?
Someone else? Yes?
If you could just comment on when you were a student and how effective you were, because you used to wake up so early in the morning and do meditation, and how helpful it is to wake up early.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing. See, forget about students. When I was doing my PhD, forget about even undergraduate program. When I was doing my PhD, I was practicing this intervention, this Mahamantra. We are doing a course titled Qualitative Reasoning and Analysis. Is PhD statistics. Okay? We were 10 students in that class. And the statistics is so difficult. But if you are doing management, you must do, like it was a compulsory course. If you fail out from the course. And we are 10 students doing that course. All the students failed. I was the only person who passed that course, with 90 plus. So the professor, he was a white guy. He fell in love with me. Basically, I attribute it to, this, the refinement of my brain fibers through the implementation of this intervention. I also had conducted a study some years ago with college students, undergraduate students, prior to their involvement or to their practice of this intervention, and when they were practicing this intervention. The result was that their grades were higher when they were practicing this Hare Krishna intervention. So yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for coming to participate in this discussions, and I wish you a very pleasant night. Thank you.